Hello and welcome to Tonight at 8 from the RSGB. Bunkers on the Air is a relatively new idea, but seems to have rapidly grown as both an easy way to get involved in amateur radio, as well as being a great opportunity to get out and about exploring different places and meeting other people. Tonight we're going to meet two people who have both discovered Bunkers on the Air, or BOTA, in the UK. Later we'll be meeting Jason Dale, 2E0JIV, who just stumbled across Bunkers on the Air on Facebook in 2023, but is now actively involved in the organisation of UKBOTA. But first we're going to meet Tony Hodge, M0TNI, who first got interested in amateur radio through listening to other amateurs accessing the International Space Station, and now finds Bunkers on the Air one of his favourite parts of the hobby. Before we start, if you're watching this on Monday the 7th of July, then this is live, and you can ask questions or make comments on either YouTube chat or BATC messaging at any time during the presentation or straight afterwards. Please include your first name and call sign if we have one within every message. And note that you can make this video stream fill your screen on most devices, usually by double clicking on the picture or pressing the full screen button. So now let's go to Tony to find out how he got into Bunkers on the Air.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Tony, M0TNI. My home QTH is near Peterborough. Just as we start out this evening, I'd like to thank the RSGB for asking me to share a little bit of my journey in amateur radio over these past 2 years, and especially the part that Bunkers on the Air has played in my enjoyment of the hobby. Well, how did I get started? Well, like many people, I first got into radio back in the 1980s through FM-CB when that was first legalized. But I was young, and then family and career came along. And frankly, at that time, the CB scene got just a little bit tedious for me. I felt a little bit limiting as well, so it fell by the wayside. But then in early 2023, I picked up a handheld scanner from eBay, mostly to try and hear local aircraft and airfields. And that worked far better than I'd ever imagined, and certainly more than the pessimistic things I'd read about on the web had suggested. Well, I had this scanner, and then I started Googling around, what else can I do with it? Searching for through YouTube and so on. And I stumbled across the ARISS website and the fact that you could actually hear amateur radio people using the ISS, a repeater on there, and talking to other people across the footprint of the station. I thought this was amazing, so I gave that a try and I could hear some amateurs, but then the time came where I could actually hear real astronauts talking to a school in France live, obviously only one side of the conversation, and that worked so much better than I had imagined. And I was absolutely hooked with radio again, so my young kind of passion was rekindled. It was really good. I had a lifelong interest in space, and so that really kind of hooked everything together for me. Well, obviously, if I wanted to get involved in doing that and giving that a try, I had to get qualified some way. And it seemed that I could certainly start off doing that with the foundation exam, and so that's what I took, the examination in April in 2023. Booked a test and passed. So that was really quite surprising. Started trying to do some things with radio. But my qualification journey didn't stop there. I'd got hooked with that, and so I thought, well, we'll go on and we'll do intermediates. I did intermediate in the September, and then, well, there was another course doing full straight after that. So I just kept going and steamed right the way through the 3 exams in the course of about 8 months or so. Really, really exciting to learn about radio again and get back into a little bit of learning after I had retired. So after that then came my first QSOs, and having been hooked into the hobby via VHF and UHF and FM operations, and really wanting to keep to a very strict budget rather than splurge on expensive radios for something that maybe, I don't know, I wouldn't kind of keep my interest in, I armed myself with one of those really common first radios, the trusty Bowman handheld. Very basic, as we all know, and I have to say not much was to be heard around my hometown here. I think I'm in a black hole, I think, for FM. I mean, I'm at kind of almost 0 feet elevation. I'm in the middle of a town. Even my local repeaters were hard to get hold of. Anyway, so that spurred me on to trying a few things, and I built a couple of antennae. I built a flower pot, both for 2 meters and 70 sems, and I also built a dual band Yagi antenna. They were great fun putting those together from plans on the internet. And the idea was for the flower pot to try and work some repeaters and for the Yagi to try and work the ISS if I could. Well, it was around about that time that the first 145 Alive Day was coming on. I'd seen that on Facebook as well. So I thought I'll give this a go. And I went out to a local high spot, which for me is a riverbank about 7 meters above sea level, to see what I might be able to do. And I did just about manage to join one of those nets. But more importantly, I got into contact with a local ham just a few miles away. And he invited me along to a local club. That's the Spalding and District Amateur Radio Society. And so that drew me further into the hobby and got me into some other things like VHF contests. And I found even with my flower pot hoisted up out of the bedroom window and my little trusty Bowfang, I was actually getting some reasonable contacts. And you can see one of mine on the slide there. That was the best one I ever made with the Bowfang. I have to say, the guy at the other end, my contact at the other end, had a massive Yagi. He was on the top of a hill, and it all helps when you're helped out that way, doesn't it? Well, being in the club got me interested into a number of other things, and in particular, the field days that the RSGB runs. And so I got involved in the FM field day that year in 23, but then the the VHF field day, and then the HF field day in the September. And it gave me a taste for something a little bit more DX, something something a bit further than just the locale. And I have to say that first HF field day, it was really exciting. I was struggling to kind of get a feel for how SSB sounded. And about my first or second contact was down to Thailand, and the rest of the club were just amazed at how well this newbie had been able to do. Anyway, so I was able to present myself for the various exams, got through those, and then just as I passed the intermediate, I thought, well, I need to treat myself now and get into HF. So I bought myself my first HF radio. In fact, it was an ICOM IC7100, so a shack in a box, would do all the bands and all the different modes, and started to kind of tune around from the house here with a end-fed half wave to see what I could find. First or second QSO straight into Denmark. So I was really quite pleased that was working. But what was there to listen to? Who could I speak to? And so looking at, again, Googling and seeing what was around, I heard about these on-the-air schemes. So summits on the air and parks on the air. And I started listening and talking to people on parks on the air, and found that was a good way to kind of build up my repertoire of how to use the radio, how to speak to people, and how to break into these small pile-ups. But then in that September and October, Bunkers on the Air, UK Bunkers on the Air, was just about coming on stream, and I think I must have just caught the beginning of that, and so was managed to ride that wave as the scheme grew, and found myself getting more and more involved. And it was through Bunkers on the Air that I really did get hooked into that hunting first parks and then bunkers through these various schemes. They were a ready way to get contacts, and with help from spotter applications, web pages, and so on, it was easy to find contacts to make, especially when your radio doesn't have a waterfall or any of those things. You're perhaps tuning around trying to find something. That was a real great help. More importantly, perhaps, and especially with Bunkers on the Air, because it was just starting and had a really kind of fresh vibrancy about it, it was a good opportunity to learn how to break into those pile-ups that people were getting. I remember that first October when the scheme had launched, and there was a big drive, a big event to kind of get people operating. Sometimes people were having huge pile-ups. I know my friend M0TNI Dave was getting quite big pile-ups as he went around doing bunkers. And so I was having to learn how to kind of get into the rhythm of that as well. And I knew that would help me on the various field days and other activities that I wanted to be able to do. Well, anyway, after a couple of months as a hunter, it was soon time to leave the shack and go portable. And my first bunker activation was in a cold January at RAF Polbrook, the memorial there, bunker Bravo Golf 1312, Airfield Battle HQ. That was a triple at the time. If you can get to the right place now, it's a quintuple. There's 5 bunkers overlapping there. But at that time, I think it was just either a triple or a quadruple. So that was quite good. I had a great lot of fun doing that. But why leave the shack? Why go out and do this portable thing, you might ask? Well, I'd wanted to go out as an activator for a number of reasons. First of all, hunting was great, but obviously you're reliant on the stalwart efforts of the activators who are going out and activating and putting those stations on the air. And to get any contacts, you have to be there at the right time, the same time as them. Whereas activating perhaps puts you in a little bit more control. And you can say, this is what I'm going to do the hobby, and you can take your radio out and activate at a bunker or a summit or a park, and then just work it from there. Secondly, though, was the issue of noise. Here in the home, I get quite a bit of noise. It can be S5, it can be S7 or more sometimes for the noise. Now, I'm not sure where that's come from. I've done various things to try and mitigate that. I do, for my sins, have solar panels on the roof, and I've tried to do what I can about that, but they predate my my interest in ham radio. So getting out into the countryside, I've found has been a really good way to get that noise level down so you can actually make much nicer and easier contacts. Thirdly, well, actually, getting out and about is great fun. I like to get out into the outdoors, and having only recently moved up to this part of the country from Suffolk, it was a chance to go out in the car and explore around, play radios at the same time, and just get to explore the countryside. And I've seen some lovely bits of the countryside. I've located a few nice pubs to maybe go back to, and some lovely villages to to visit maybe at another time. Some people might be asking at this point, are you going to talk about gear? What gear do you use? Well, I would say really for portable ops, it's whatever gear you've got that you can stick in a rucksack or in the car and just take out with you. I started with my 7100, which has the advantage of having a detachable head. So that could, if I was in the car, the main unit would go onto the seat of the car. The head would be on a cup mount in the cup holder of the car, and that would work very well. If I wanted to go portable truly with a rucksack, then it breaks down and fits into the rucksack very easily. It's weighty, but it's not too heavy. Combined with a really nice lightweight end-fed half wave, it was fairly easy to carry around. Since then, I've invested in a Xiegu G90, a little bit lighter, nicer in that its HF has got the waterfall in it. It's easier to carry around, and at the moment, that's my preferred gear of choice. Again, coupled with the end-fed half wave, which I made, but then also perhaps sometimes better with a linked dipole, which is another antenna I've recently made. But other people go out with QRP gear. It really is, what have you got that you feel comfortable taking out with you that you know is going to do the job for you? So I'm not going to labor too much on about gear. But I have to say, the biggest advantage I found with, in particular, bunkers on the air, the UK bunker scheme, is what I call the BOTA Edge. And that is a growing community of hams who have a common interest. And actually, we're always ready to help and encourage anyone, either those on the air or through the Facebook and WhatsApp chat groups that we have. And I found that really helpful in developing my interest in radio, but also my practice of the hobby as well. I admit, and I said earlier, I'd kind of crashed my way through the 3 RSG exams in quite short order. In my defense, that's because that's my way of learning. That suits me really well, just to kind of keep on driving and keep on going forward. But I have to say, having obtained that knowledge to pass those exams didn't necessarily fit me entirely fully for practicing the hobby. And so I needed to be able to put that into practice and learn things as I went along. And being in a community like Bunkers on the Air has really helped with that, because you can discuss issues, discuss problems, be challenged to do other and different things as well. Excuse me. Well, I passed my intermediate and my full with the online amateur radio community, and they had a support group through chats on Discord, and that was really very useful as well. But it was really only in getting joined up with a special interest group like UKBOTA and applying those things as I went along that really helped me grow in my understanding, my appreciation of the technical and practical aspects of the hobby. For example, it was during a chat on the WhatsApp group about why using split mode for FT8 was probably better than using it non-split. I really began to understand quite how that was working and how the audio frequency range you can access using split mode is far greater than you would if you were non-split. In that way, a lot of the understanding I had became more solidified and broader, and therefore I was much more able to practice the hobby. And so I also found that as the UKBOTA scheme grew in terms of numbers and participants and further additions of more bunkers on the list, then a regular variety of special events and so on were coming through the years with new challenges. And that kind of keeps the hobby fresh. It gives you something else to get out of the house and get into the car to activate. Can I get this many points on this activity, and so on and so forth. And so that's been a real good way, I think, for me as a newbie, perhaps, to grow in the hobby. And then the online community with practical discussions linked almost entirely to our shared hobby of amateur radio has really helped me to progress and grow. So what is there next for me? Well, I'm really someone who likes a challenge. And I've essentially had 3 different careers in my lifetime before retiring. So where would I go next in amateur radio that would keep my interest up and keep me moving forward? Well, I have to say, one of my main reasons for going on and doing the full license, especially with the changes that there were coming up to the licensing conditions anyway, in terms of power and so on, one of the main differences in getting the full is, of course, you have access to using your radio abroad and to kind of travel with it. And so that was something I perhaps had dreamed of doing, maybe operating abroad. That was particularly poignant because just as I had started my full training, I was actually out in the Caribbean on a really tiny island, and it would have been really cool to activate that for islands on the air. Anyway, I had to start the course while I was out there by video, which was really good. So this was one of my impetuses to, can I get that full and maybe go abroad with the radio? And about the time I was invited to kind of share with you this talk, I was planning a trip to France just for a bit of a holiday break. And I thought, hang on, we're going around about D-Day and we're going to go to Normandy. Wouldn't it be cool to be on Normandy Beach and activate some of the French bunkers from the FBOTA scheme? So I very cunningly booked a gîte in France, which was 200 meters inside the activation zone of a bunker. So that was really very useful, but on a part of the course that was literally strewn with bunkers. And so over the course of just less than a week, I was able to activate 12, and some actually on D-Day themselves. And so that was really good. Because it had corresponded with the D-Day break and we were on Gold Beach, I thought I wanted to take things just a little bit further and give a bit more meaning to my D-expedition. So I got myself sponsored and to raise some money for the Poppy Appeal, for the Royal British Legion Poppy Appeal. And the community of bunkers and some friends, we got together, and I'm glad to be able to say that we raised about £320 for the Poppy Appeal, mostly by people sponsoring me, but also some people in the bunkers, in the bunker community, giving direct as well. So that was really good fun and gave us that little bit extra meaning. And that inspired me then, well, these people have helped me, so I'll go the full hog with this D-expedition. I'll do some QSO cards to send out to people. So that involved kind of working out how to do that. So again, another learning experience and a lot more fun to be had with bunkers on the air. So that was that. Events and awards. Well, that's another growth opportunity that Bunkers on the Air has afforded me. basically, there's lots of things going on through the year. This year in particular, we've got a year-long event or challenge called the UKBOTA Bunketeer Award for 2025. And that's essentially a list of different challenges for activators to nudge us out of our comfort zones and into new territory. I guess it's a bit like the RSGB Brickworks scheme, which I also took part in the other year. There's about 50 regular challenges that you can do at any time, but also a monthly bonus challenge, and special ones for those who are new to the hobby as well. Well, I'm not that new, so I can't get those. But anyway, they're a great way to kind of spur you on to try some different things. I wonder how many of us so far have managed to work our 10 stations using slow scan TV mode. I've only got one so far. So I guess most of us have picked off the easy challenges, and for all of us that would have been a different set, and now the more difficult ones are there to try, and I'm currently at silver level with 28 points out of more than 80 that are available. I need 2 more to get the gold level, so I need to go and activate maybe in Wales or somewhere else to get some of those extra points. I think actually this talk might qualify for one, because I'm addressing a club. It says my club. I'll have to see if I can twist Jason's arm to let me claim this one. But if I give a talk to my club or online about bunkers on the air, I can get a bunketeer point. So I'm hoping to claim this one. So great, thanks for that opportunity as well. What else is there on the challenge? Well, do you know, one of the things that put me off getting involved in ham radio back in the 80s, because I did know about it at the time and had 1 or 2 friends who were involved, were 2 things. My perception, rightly or wrongly at the time, was that the exam was quite difficult, was quite involved. You had to go on a course, and it took a long time. But also there was this phobia of, well, you've got to do Morse, you've got to do CW. That may or may not have been the case. I don't know. That was just my perception. And so that had helped to kind of put me off at the time. And so come the beginning of this year, I'm thinking about, oh, well, there is a bunketeer challenge to operate stations that do bunker to bunkers in CW. Can I manage that? And so I set myself a challenge beginning of the year. Why not learn a new language? And decided I'd try and learn a bit of Morse. I'm fortunate in there's people in the Spalding and District Amateur Radio Society, SARAS, who have a regular weekly, well, almost weekly CW little mini club within the club. So there's people there to help teach me and encourage me and draw me along. And so that's my current challenge is Morse. Can I learn enough CW to actually work a bunker, or maybe 2 or 3, and get that extra point? I need to get back to practicing that. The last couple of months have been busy with holidays and another award in the scheme. So anyway, that's something to get back to, and something that's very different and very challenging that I never thought I would really be able to do, that I think, you know, amateur radio and bunkers on the air has drawn me into and given me something else to try. Well, that's my brief history in amateur radio, and in particular bunkers on the air. I want to thank a whole range of people, really. First of all, of course, the UKBOTA management team for organising bunkers on the air and all of the events, running the websites and everything. They put in a lot of time, and having been involved in kind of club leadership before, I know how much that costs. So I really do thank the UKBOTA team for all of their hard work. But also the people involved in UKBOTA, the hunters and the activators, who make it so easy for us to both hunt people and activate stations ourselves. That's been a really great joy and a pleasure. I want to thank Spalding and District Amateur Radio Society and encourage people to join your local amateur radio club, because there you can find help that you perhaps didn't know you even needed. I know I certainly have. And maybe some encouragement to do other new things and get involved in things like contesting and so on. Certainly the online amateur radio community and their Discord group for helping me with my training and getting me through those second 2 exams. But also the Ham 2K Polo, the portable logger extraordinaire, which just grows and grows with the hobby and is now able to self-spot and so many other things. It's been a really good tool to use as I go out activating. And there's some websites there that I'm sure most of them you're all aware of. You can look me up on QRZ. I've got a special portable page which at the moment will give you a report of my my de-expedition to the Normandy beaches. Well, thank you everybody for that. I hope I haven't been too boring. There's been questions at the end, so I'll hang around for those as well. But right now, I'll just hand back to David to introduce Jason. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Real inspiration, I'm sure, for anybody who's just thinking, I'm not sure if I can get into this amateur radio thing. I think that was a really good inspirational talk. Thank you for that. We'll be seeing you later, as you say, for questions. If you haven't already asked questions or made any comments you want to, don't forget you can do that on BATC or on the YouTube chat. But now we're going to hear from Jason 2E0JIV, who has a slightly different story of how he got into BOTA, but who also finds it a wonderful way to use amateur radio. Welcome to Tonight at 8, Jason.
Yeah, good evening. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for inviting me across to this presentation. Yeah, so tonight, what I'd like to do is sort of follow on from Tony, but give my side of the story as a new ham and as part of the administration team for UKBOTA. My prior experience. So going back to 1990, I found myself sat in a classroom on a cold airfield at Basingham Barracks. In front of me was a UK PRC 349, a 320 and a 351. On the desk in front of me was a book all about voice procedure and a backco wallet. So that's where it all sort of started for me. Moving on, whilst in the army, I went from just a general operator. I then went and done my B2 radio operators course, which then put me in the position of working at company or platoon and company level as a radio operator. Moving on from that, I went and done my B1 radio operators course and became part of the RSI team within the regiment, instructing signals to other soldiers within the regiment. Then when I left the army 2011, my interest in radio pretty much stopped. I'd left it all behind. It wasn't something I was going to carry on and continue with. In 2022, I was sitting in the doctor's one day, and on the table there was a copy of the RadCom magazine, and I picked it up and started flipping through the pages. And it sort of, I can't remember what the article was, but there's a specific article in there that grabbed my attention. I thought, yep, I'm going to have a look at this. So I did the research of how to become a licensed amateur. I went and done the Essex Ham foundation course, passed that, and then in sort of, that was 2022 up until 2023. I still wasn't, even though I was licensed, I still wasn't really involved in radio. I'd got on the odd repeaters. The only radio I had was a Rectavis RT95, and I really did struggle with amateur radio at that point. To the point where I was almost ready just to, to hand the towel in. 2023, I was on Facebook and I saw this group come up, UK Bunkers on the Air. And so I joined the group and it really interested me. It sort of ticked all my boxes with the history and being able to make more contacts and talk to more people. So I joined the group. Now, it wasn't until... My slide's not working. Oh, we've got a slide malfunction here. Okay, we'll go without the slide. So it wasn't until January 2024 when for that Christmas I decided, well, I need to buy myself an HF rig. So I bought myself a G90 for Christmas. January 2024, it's actually the 1st of January, I then went outside and did my first activation. It was a double activation for at Hopton rotor radar site and the Hopton Rock post. 56 contacts and a pile up, and that was my first ever introduction into sort of HF comms and UKBOTA as a whole. Continued activating. At the time I was in the position work-wise to travel around Norfolk. They were quite flexible in the use of the vehicle, should I say. So I always had the radio with me, and if there was a bunker nearby, I'd pull up and start activating. Sort of mid-2024, I made a proposal about setting up a wiki site or Wikipedia site for UK bunkers, and I was invited into the management team and asked if I can do a write-up for RadCom and Practical Wireless magazines. So I sat down, wrote these articles. The Practical Wireless magazine article was published. Unfortunately, the RadCom one never got published, but that cemented me into the admin team as their communications and outreach representative.
Tony, sorry, just to interrupt you, Jason, if you would like to, I can just buy you a couple of moments, if you like, now to... while your slides are off screen, if you want to just have a look at them and see if you can advance them, because obviously not only would our viewers find them interesting, but it's also going to prompt you along your way. How are you getting on?
Yep, I'm now there.
We'll come back to you. Okay, back to you, Jason.
All right then. Okay, so now we've got the disaster out of the way with the screen. So UKBOTA, I consider it a breath of fresh air. So it has its physical and mental benefits. So I suffer from PTSD. I'm not ashamed to admit it. When I have episodes, I find nothing better than picking up the radio, going out, going to a bunker, sitting in a field or sitting beside the bunker or within the activation zone, setting up the equipment, setting up the antenna and making the contacts. Bizarrely enough, even a pile-up I find stressful because I'm in control. I've got all these contacts, all these calls coming in. Those calls want me, but I can control how that situation. So it acts as, bizarrely, it acts as a de-stress situation for me. I also have a great interest in sort of history, from sort of World War II, World War I, World War II and onwards, and I'm particularly interested in the Cold War era. So again, with UKBOTA, the references and the bunkers that we assign the references to are within that area. So going out there, you sit at bunker and it's not just a case of activating. You find yourself getting drawn into the history and you start thinking, what was going on in this location many years ago? And you think, these people volunteered and put their, potentially put their lives at risk. And now we're sitting here remembering what they did and activating a bunker. And I kind of think it's activating a bunker in their memory. So it's not just a portable activity. Tony sort of brushed on that and took it the other way, where it's not just a shack activity, it's a portable activity. There is a lot of scope for those who maybe can't get out, to go not activate, to chase and hunt from home. Our socials deliver all the necessary information when activation's going to happen. It's just a case of following those socials. And we probably have a very, very high mix of activators and hunters themselves. The support offered by UKBOTA, first and foremost, it's community. The community run it. Okay, the admin team are there to administer it, but the community run the scheme. They support us, and recently they've started funding us to help us continue with the project itself. But the community are the most important part of UKBOTA. A web and social presence. So we've got an extensive website and social presence. Currently there are 2 websites, and I will go on to those a little bit later. But there's the UKBOTA website, ukbota.org, and there's the bunkerbase.org. Now later on, these sites will be combined, and I will go on to that a little later in the presentation. Our social media presence, there's Facebook, we have WhatsApp channels. and it's just one big community. And as Tony said, everyone talks, there's no animosity, there's no sort of bad noise there. Everyone is willing and over willing to help the next person out if they require such help. We have extensive tools to help you activate or chase bunkers. These tools include special mapping, KLM overlays, which we produce periodically. And it's roughly sort of every 3 to 4 months, we'll update the mapping. We'll look at new references. Carl, M0ICR will vet those references, and then they'll be added to the new mapping and then delivered out to the community and the wider login. We have a platform. The bunker-based platform currently is our logging platform. This will change come September, but again, there's more on that in a bit. Our cluster, we have a dedicated cluster, so which is on the UKBOTA, the worldwide BOTA site. On there, an activator can input his spot, that will ping out, and it automatically populates Ham2K. It populates our WhatsApp channel, our spotting WhatsApp channel, and it also with an integration with in Renton, and I've forgotten his M0TRT, his field spotter map, so it's integrated into that. So a map will show up exactly your location, the location of the bunker, and you can get all the distance and bearings, and it's just an absolutely amazing tool. We have elegant, lovely, really elegant awards. There are so many schemes which have awards which look like they're just on piece of paper. Carl designs all the awards. They are fantastically, really elegant. We also run, so within those awards, we have a lifetime awards, we have annual awards, we run special events. We're just about to prepare for a special event coming up in August, which is the Airfield Bunkers event, or AFB 25, which on this one we've produced a mapping where the valid bunkers for this event are only airfield related bunkers. Other awards that we've got after that, we'll then have the Rock 25, which is celebrating the Royal Observer Corps and the work that they've done. After that, at Christmas, we then move on to the Advent calendar, and the website will give you details on all the other special events that we run. But we run regular special events to complement the other awards schemes that we're running. Tony mentioned the bunker tier, so I'm not going to draw that one out. But yes, it's designed to take the activator. It's an activator's only award, but it's designed to take the activator out of his comfort zone. There are little challenges in there which you've got to think about, you've got to plan, then you can achieve the points and then progress through the tier levels. But there's some cheeky little challenges in there, and it is designed not to be an easy an award, not to be an easy award, and it runs throughout the year. Very worth looking at. So yeah, within that award, then there's the tailored activities for the new joiners. So again, Tony mentioned this. There is an element within the Bunker Tiers Award which is tailored at newly qualified M7s, and it just helps them and gives them a little bit of more progression through the hobby. So what's next for me? Full license, definitely full license. And it's not because of the increase of power. Same as Tony, I like to travel. I do a lot of overseas travel, and I go to a lot of places which are now part of the worldwide bunkers scheme, and I'd like to be able to go there and actually activate from one of their schemes from one of their bunkers. So full license definitely on the cards. I have been studying at the moment, and I I don't think I'm in the position at the moment to apply for the examination. I think I need to do a bit more recap on the studying, but that is something that's definitely on the cards for me. I also want to learn CW. Why do I want to learn CW? It's a missing skill, I think. It was something that was never taught to me in the army, but I think it interests me, and I think learning CW, even at the basic way, is going to help me and make me a better operator. More on the air schemes. So I'm heavily involved with UKBOTA, and to be honest, I don't really get involved in any other schemes. Living in Norfolk, I can't really get involved with SOTA. Yeah, there's a lack of hills here, so I'm limited to probably the one that makes the better mix for me is parks on the air, and especially around this area where I live in Norfolk, there are a lot of parks which also fall into the catchment zone of bunkers. Further UKBOTA promotions. So I've just top and tailed the organisation for us to hold a special interest table up at the National Hamfest in September. That's now all completed. We're just finishing off the promotional material. So the team's going to go up there, have the special interest table, and hopefully draw in more interest to the scheme itself. Obviously, anyone out there who hasn't thought about or heard of UKBOTA, have a look. We'll go through the websites in a minute, but take a look at the websites. All the information is on there, and the scheme is tailored for you. We're a trusted scheme, a trust scheme. You don't have to upload logs. Unlike schemes like POTA, the hunter isn't reliant on the activator uploading a log. The hunter still gets 100% credit regardless of whether the activator uploads a log or not. So yeah, take a look at the sites and have a good read. Okay, so the sites at the moment then, ukbota.org. So ukbota is the .org is the forward-facing information website. That's where all the rules are, all the guidance for the types of the guidance for the types of awards. There's also all the links to the mapping that we use for those awards. The bunker base, that is the logging platform. So that's the area which is dedicated for hunters and activators to go up and log all their QSOs and start building up the points required for award claims. Now, these two sites at the moment are separate sites. In September, or sort of around sort of the first week, 2 weeks of September, these sites are going to sort of move slightly and converge as one. So we'll have UKBOTA, and within that UKBOTA, the bunker base or bunker base 2 will be attached within that one site. Bunker base 2 is an extremely trying to think the word. It's the project is amazing, and what Carl has achieved is phenomenal. It makes the user interface, and if I'm going to say it, it's probably the user interface is going to be supersede all other on the air activities. The user interface will allow multiple integrations with different mapping to view sites that have been activated, who's activated them, the list of when they were activated. It will also give you mapping of all the ATNO sites, or the sites that have never been activated. It's designed visually fantastic, and it's designed to give the community what they've asked for. Basically, Carl is the architect. but the community has asked for different recommendations. He's taken that on board, and with his team, they've come up, and yeah, it's absolutely fantastic what they're coming up with. So that's looking at happening first week to mid-September. Our socials then, so Facebook page is UKBOTA, UK Bunkers on the Air. Find us on Facebook. And we also have WhatsApp channels, and to access the WhatsApp channels, there are links on the websites, and there are links within Facebook itself. So I spoke about the change coming up in September. For those who are interested in the change, if they go to ukbota.net /BB2 blog, in there they'll find a blog which Carl M0ICR has written, which details all the progress work that's gone on, and how the move is going to progress, and the different functionalities that the new Bunker Base 2 will have. So yes, that sort of concludes my part of the presentation. Apologies for the hiccup with the slideshow at the start. I'll hand you back to David, and I'll stick around for some questions. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Jason. Another really interesting and inspiring talk from you as well, looking at UKBOTA from slightly different angles, but really, really good stuff. So if you're watching this at home and you haven't already asked us any questions or made any comments, please do so now on either YouTube chat or BATC messaging, and I'll read as many as we can to them at the end. One thing I thought that was very much in common with both of your talks is in terms of where you're going next, both of you do want to do more, and you want to get into CW, and I'm sort of interested in that. Do you think that CW will particularly lend itself, as an extra dimension, as it were, to BOTA? I'll ask Tony first.
Well, it will do, because it'll give me better opportunities, certainly in the QRP realm. Obviously, CW is better suited when you're QRP, so that'll give me that opportunity. But I don't know. For me, it was a challenge. The impetus of being able to get an extra point in bunker tier challenge was just perhaps the icing on the cake. But for me, it was that challenge of, I was put off by it when I was younger, in my 30s. I'm sure I'm better than that. So it's the challenge. But yes, it does do. And I guess as more people get involved, and more people perhaps with their CW skills get involved, then there'll be more opportunities. Certainly, it's not all phone on bunkers on the air. There's quite a lot of FT8 goes on, love it or not, it's there. Sometimes it's the only way you can complete 25 QSOs for an activation on a really bad day. So that's there. But then obviously, CW, that'll give me another string to my bow. What do you think, Jace?
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. For me, the CW was it's not something I've ever done. It's not something I've ever sort of paid any attention to. It wasn't until it was put on the bunker tier list, and I thought, well, this is a missing subject. And let's be honest, amateur radio, if you go back years ago, it was part of the curriculum, and it's been moved away. People may say, oh, it's a dinosaur. We've now got SDR transceivers. Why do we need CW? We don't need it, but it's historical. It's historically part of amateur radio. Yeah, it's something I would want to learn because of that aspect.
You realise now that both of you have said this publicly, you'll be hounded now forever until you do it. Well done to you. Actually, just as a mention as well, our last webinar here, our last Tonight at 8, was in June, and that was all about the art of CW, the art of Morse code. So if either of you, or of course people watching as well, if you're interested in looking back at that, you can find them on rsgb.org/webinars. Okay, let's get to some of the questions now of our viewers. And firstly, M0JEC, he or she says, I'm still trying to activate SOTA from IO44, but sadly my bad back prevented me this year. And he also says, though, interestingly, I'm still trying and struggling to learn CW properly, but can receive, but not fast enough to string a QSO yet. So still slightly on the Morse theme. I mean, do you have any tips for M0JEC? Either of you?
I mean, so SOTA isn't something I've got involved in. Being in living in Norfolk, it's something that unless I moved away from Norfolk, it's impractical to me to comment on that.
I don't think Tony, you haven't got many more in
No,
Cambridgeshire, have you?
I'm in South Lincolnshire, so
Yes.
it's pretty much as bad for me. The only time I get to do SOTA, I've done a couple, is when I visit family in South Wales, and when I went on holiday up to Northumberland and the borders. So that's the only time I read. My nearest SOTA is 95 miles away. But as for the CW, I've got a nice little trainer which I use, and that's kind of useful. But it sounds like the questioner there is listening and managing to decipher. I think with regards to practicing, it is a matter of practicing. But for me, I just wouldn't really get very far without the support of the local club. And I know they sometimes have a mini net on UHF just for CW. But sadly, in my black hole for UHF here, I can't get to join in. So I would say, well, try and find somebody to practice with, or maybe record what you're trying to send, maybe using a trainer or something, and try to decipher it back. So you've got that feedback as to how well it's going.
All right, lovely. Well, I hope this helps you. Norman, we now know your name is M0JEC. Thank you. I hope that gives you a little bit of a tip there. Not so much of a question here, but a comment from Jeff G4FKA, who says, I started hunting bunkers about a year ago and have become hooked. Plenty of info around about the activations and easy to use logging schemes and some nice certificates as well, Jeff says. Another question from Graham, G8NWC. With the varying conditions of late, does FT8 help get the required number for activations, especially when the bands are challenging? What do you think? Jason, you want to take this first?
No, I'm going to pass that over to Tony because my experience with FT8 is extremely limited.
Fine. Okay, Tony.
Well, do you know what? Actually, something I always have in the bag, whether it's the rucksack or in the car, is a means to do FT8. And I don't do FT8 every time I activate, but I have it there. In the rucksack, it's just an old Android phone with the FT8CN application on it. And I found before I was able to use that even without the interface into the G90, so that was quite good. But I have now got the interface for it anyway. If I'm in the car going kind of more mobile and parking up, then I'll have a tablet with me which runs the full FT8 application. Do I use it all the time? No. And in fact, I used it less than I thought I would need to on Normandy beaches. The bands were horrendous. They were absolutely terrible. I really struggled, and I had to go back and complete one a second day for one of the bunkers. But actually, by perseverance, I did get through. So do I use it every time? No. Is it there just in case the bands are really bad and I can try and get a few QSOs? Absolutely. It's always good to have it. You might not ever go back that way.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that. Donald G3YPL has just put a note in, and I'm only reading it now so that we can get a bit more feedback. He says that I've created a CW learning software originally in 1983 and published in Practical Wireless magazine, but he says that he's just redone the software at the moment. So Donald, if you can come back fairly quickly with how and where people can find that software, if you're sharing it, that would be really useful. If you can just pop it onto the YouTube chat, then I'll relay that to everybody. Now, another question. By the way, lots of compliments and thanks to both of you. I mean, literally quoting a few of them. Fantastic. Well done, both of you. Well done to both presenters. Great talk and everything. So, and BOTA is great fun. So lots of fans that you've got and probably made some more, I think, tonight. Lo-Fi, I don't have a call sign or a name, I'm afraid. So it's LOFI is the YouTube name. Great talks, both very interesting. I just passed my full with OARC and currently teaching myself Morse. There's a pattern developing here, isn't there? So hopefully Donald's going to come back with how we can get that software. There was one other question, I think. Oh yes, from Steve, M1SDH. a question for both of you. So we'll ask Jason first. What's your favourite or most interesting bunker that you've activated? Yeah, Jason first.
My most favourite, most interesting, that would be Bravo Golf Juliet 0005, Island of Jersey. The bunkers out there are spectacular. The obviously German, they built during the occupation, but the construction of those bunkers is absolutely fantastic, and the heritage out there just kept them so pristine. Yeah, that's definitely my favourite jersey.
Okay, and same to you, Tony. What's your favourite activation?
I think my favourite local one is RAF Polbrook, the Bravo Golf 1312. As I said earlier, it's now thankfully been upgraded. It's now a 5-fer, but you can only get the 5 if you can access some private land. And up this track, there's 2 huge signs saying no access. Nobody should go up here. And it's like, well, you've got to respect the landowner's signs, haven't you? But occasionally, if you're hanging around at the RAF, the airfield memorial there, you can see somebody driving in and out of the industrial part. And I have flagged them down on occasion. I said, do you mind if I just go up the lane here and sit on that corner out of your way? Just they give you a funny look, but I have managed to activate it as a 5-fer that way before. The most impressive, again, I'd have to go abroad, and the ones I found on the Normandy beaches in France, obviously a very poignant place to be. And I've been there before many years ago. But yeah, there's some quite impressive sights there, and a lot to kind of sit and think about the inheritance we have from the Second World War and on into the modern day. So yeah, but my favourite, very definitely RAF Polbrook, 5 bunkers if I'm lucky, if not a 4-fer, and I can sit there all day. There's a lovely memorial. The airfield was, it's reported as being one of the ones from which the first USAF air raid was set out from. I think it's also the airfield where the very last USAF bombing raid was launched from, and they are also it's the 8th Airborne. I think Glenn Miller was associated with that airfield as well, so a lot of history there.
Lovely, thanks, Tony. Right, we've got some more questions coming in now. Mike G7JYY. Hi, Jason. Great to see you on screen as well as working on air. So proud of all the hard-working team that gave me back my interest in a hobby that was dwindling. And that's definitely something that, I think that was your experience, wasn't it, Jason? You said that you were almost going to sort of give it up. There wasn't much going on the air around you until you discovered BOTA. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. I was, a newly qualified ham. I hadn't, at that point, got HF kit. I just had VHF kit. And I was struggling to make contacts, and it wasn't, and I was in the process of just throwing the towel in and forgetting the hobby. Came across UKBOTA on Facebook. It intrigued me to the point where I bought myself, an G90 for Christmas, and on the 1st of January, 56 QSOs and a pile up, for my very first activation.
Yeah, that is really good, isn't it? And it must have really inspired you. So some other questions now coming in, which maybe one or both of you can answer. From Phil M7NFV. Hi, a question re the bunker map on BG 1700. It has an area of 3.12 kilometres square. Is this the area you can activate from? I guess there's more for you, Jason, probably.
So do you want
me to read it again? Of course.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hi, this is a question re the bunker map. On BG 1700, it has an area of 3.12 kilometres square. Is this the area you can activate from?
Right. I'm not entirely sure what he means. So on the bunker map, if you're looking at the KLM through Google Maps, what you'll see there is a pin which locates the actual bunker itself, and then superimposed on that is a 1 kilometer circle, which is the activation zone. So as long as you're within that blue circle on the KLM map, then that's an area where you can activate from. Obviously, outside that blue circle, you're outside the activation zone, and you couldn't. So without knowing exactly what map that he's looking at, that's the only way I can answer it. If you look at the Google Earth KLM, it will show you exactly where the activation zone is and where you're permitted to activate from.
And you have to be within that, do you?
Yes, you have to be inside that blue 1 kilometer radius.
Okay, Phil. Well, I hope that's answered your question. If not, if you very quickly come on here and expand a bit more on your question, I'll be happy to relay that to them. Now from Norman M0JIV, what's required to constitute a bunker? Do the gun emplacement bunkers on canals, etc. count? He says he's going to have a look at the site after the stream. So, Tony, have you got anything on that before I come to Jason?
No, I think that'd probably be better, Jason. But so there are a defined list of bunkers. We started off with the Royal Observer Corps bunker sites. So these were the observation posts that they had in the Cold War, and then other different forms of bunker were added to that, subterranean emplacements. Some gun emplacements, but not all. They have to have a specific feature or importance, I think. Isn't that right, Jason?
Yes. So I think. On that question there, what discussing is a more than likely a pillbox. Pillboxes as a separate entity are not generally added to the list. If we went around and added all the pillboxes in the country, we just couldn't map them. It's impossibility to map them. So what we do with pillboxes is look at them as clusters. So that particular location, there's possibly 2-4 bunker pillboxes, which would have originally formed part of a defensive line. Now, if they're not already referenced, they could be referenced. They could be clustered together. The central point of the activation would go smack bang in the middle of them, and then the activation zone moved out on that. On the other side of it, if you were walking out the countryside and you just found a random pillbox, that still could have the potential of being added as a bunker reference. A random pillbox in the countryside, which isn't or doesn't seem to be part of an old defensive line, could identify that there was something else there. So in that case, do a bit of research, see what was there originally. It could have been a bombing decoy site. It could have been an airfield. It could have been a rotor radar site. All these would then constitute for that to be added in as a bunker. And I think on that particular one with the canal, it would be that would be as a bunker cluster. But again, my email's on qrz.com. If he wants to pass the details on to me, I'm happy to have a look at them, then pass them on to Carl to authorise them for the next layout.
All right, that's brilliant, Jason. Thank you very much. I'm just checking there. I think we've answered all of the direct questions that came in. Donald came back and said he's almost finished, I think, the version of the Morse learning course. But the key thing about it, he says, is it's about learning only 4 letters at a time. So we look for that, Donald. And don't forget to write to RadCom and other publications, I'm sure, to make people aware of that, because there's always a lot of demand. There's still a lot of demand for learning about Morse and different ways of learning about it as well. But I think that's about it. As I said, lots and lots of comments, and thanks very much to both of you. We should also mention, of course, that there's lots of other things that you can do and similar sort of activities. You've mentioned SOTA and POTA and chasing RSGB awards and things like that. So we shouldn't forget that there are those activities as well. But it's wonderful to think how BOTA, just in a few years really, has picked up. Just the last comments back to you, both of you together now. Someone watching this now, that final thing about why do BOTA? Why do bunkers on the air?
I'll take that first, Jace. Yeah, I think it's just that combination of you like playing with radios, and you either perhaps find there's a lack of QSOs you can do if you're limited to being in the shack. Well, it brings you into a community where you can actually make perhaps more QSOs than you might have done. If you like to get out and about, or if you think it might be a nice thing to do to get out and about, it gets you out into the countryside, out where there's less noise, bit of fresh air, nice views sometimes, and yeah, the opportunity to play radios out in the country. And even when it's cold, it's still good fun, isn't it, Jason?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly that. The opportunity to go outside to the country if you're an activator, but also there is that sense of history there. You like I mentioned, you're sitting on a bunker, and your mind sort of gets drawn back into what it was like to actually work in that bunker many years ago, and why they did it, and the sacrifice they were willing to pay to work from that location. The other thing is, we are at UKBOTA are more than happy for you to involve other schemes. If there's a park nearby, combine the two. Most activators give out the WAB square for the WAB collectors. You can combine all these different on the air schemes with UKBOTA. And the community just makes it far more enjoyable, I think.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The one thing why we do all this, our hobby, a lot of us do it as well for the social aspects. It's just that we do meet other people, even if it's virtually or through the wonders of radio, isn't it? Thank you both very much indeed. Say lots of comments and thoughts. You'll be able to read them yourself on YouTube and on the BATC. But thank you both very much for this evening. And that does conclude this webinar. And our thanks again to Jason Dale, 2E0JIV, and Tony Hodge, M0TNI. And also thanks to the team who put this webinar together behind the scenes. Well, we're actually taking a short break for the summer. We'll be back again with a new series in September. Meantime, don't forget to secure your place at this year's RSGB convention at Milton Keynes on October the 10th, 11th and 12th. This year's theme is Discover, Learn, Progress, and there'll be a wide range of presentations, forums and practical activities over the whole weekend. Booking is now open with early bird pricing available for just a little while longer. For more details of the convention and how to book, please visit rsgb.org/convention. And if you subscribe to the RSGB's YouTube channel, you'll be notified of all upcoming Tonight at 8 webinars, as well as other new videos and presentations from the Society on a wide range of amateur radio topics. Thanks again for joining us this evening, and until next time, this is David G7URP signing off and clear. Bye-bye.